That's James's Oatmeal Cookie Waffle. That's my Birthday Cake Waffle. You can see the little candy sprinkles. And I had to use about a teaspoon of this. So there's the fat for that, for James's Cookie Waffle. I didn't have to use any for mine. And the Cookie Waffle, this is per 1.5 tablespoons. So it has way more sodium, you can see, than the Birthday Cake Waffle, because this is per half cup, and I will get this much protein in half of a waffle, so I don't need to eat the whole waffle. And James will probably use that, we'll see. I'm going to talk about Lawmen Bass Reeves, or Bass Reeves, I can't remember what they called them, and Beyond Paradise, season 1. And I liked both of those. Honestly, I liked watching both. So I'll talk about them a bit here, and then I'll put you over to James. It looks like he has quite a lot to review.
Well,
so,
review, some preview, and
yeah.
Some re-preview or pre-review or whatever.
All right. So there's a little bit of that cookie mix left for James for a later time, and he can have some of mine if he wants to. So, yeah, this is, I guess, the first season of this. It's going to continue. There's Donald Sutherland's in this, and some other people. I don't know. But anyway, it's pretty good. I'm not into the whole, I don't know, American history, Civil War era sort of thing, but whatever.
I find it more and more interesting as I get older.
Oh, really?
Like that. Well, you know, like I can remember, I didn't get into an argument, but I was saying the Civil War was the first modern war, and there was a guy there. I thought he was kind of a reasonable kind of guy. He was into Neil Young and stuff like that, confined to a wheelchair, but he just went mad and crazy. World War I was the first modern war. Because he said they used horses in the Civil War. Newsflash, they used horses in World War II, the Germans did. Right? World War II. I suspect the Japanese did. I suspect the Italians did. I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians did. In World War II. So the key is what happened in the Civil War, trench warfare. And that's, you know, I used to think Grant was an idiot because that's the way he's portrayed. Like he was a guy who just, he's a meat grinder for the Union troops. The North, lost way more troops than the South did. And, but what he was faced with was when that's Grant, when he was trying to get the South to surrender, he was going after the capital, Richmond, and there were apparently just layer upon layer of trenches around Richmond. And he managed, of course he lost a lot of men, he managed to get through that trench system. And the trench system it totally favors the defense. That's what happened in World War I. It was just a total meat grinder. And, you know, in Civil War II, they had like armored ships. In the Civil War, that's 1865. That's even before my granddad was born. He was born in 1882. But yeah, so this guy just, it wasn't an argument. He was just screaming, shouting. Yep, what's the point? You know, like, who cares? But at any rate, so Grant, though he wasn't a great president later on, was one of the greatest generals in the history of humankind. And when you read his autobiography, it's stunning. You know, before the Civil War, he's actually sent down to Mexico by the Americans to settle some sort of Mexican hash. He actually says he didn't want to do it. He thought it was colonialism or something like that, imperialism. So he was kind of on the left-hand side of things. He was on the left-hand side of the Republican Party then, under Abraham Lincoln and so on and so forth. Well, it was before Abraham. But he was a Republican Party president. It was the left-wing side of the political spectrum. Definitely not that now. Sorry about that.
No, that's cool. Oh. I'm glad. I like it when you add things. So anyway, yeah, there's some things in this that I didn't like, that really really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I can kind of understand it. I mean, the big hero of this story, Bass Reeves or Bass Reeves.
Oh, it's hard to tell which it is. Eh?
So yeah, I know. I watched it, but I was writing poetry and stuff. Whatever. I was paying attention. It was interesting. But and even if I hadn't been watching or reading poetry, it would have been interesting just to watch it, honestly. But anyway, so he ends up going after this guy. He's like a bounty hunter, right? Sort of. He's a deputy. He goes and grabs guys who are wanted for murder. He brings them back. They get their trial, and well, usually they hang. If,
well, it's good he's bringing them back instead of killing them out in the field.
Totally.
That would be vigilante.
Yeah, and so he's bringing them back, and they get their trial. So a lot of African American people don't like him because a lot of the time he's picking up African American people. This is after the Civil War, and they're African American people now have their freedom. You know, they're not slaves anymore. Okay, and so, but you can see the system. It's a time of change, and things are not comfortable, and so he's a lawman, and he had worked on a lot of African American people don't like him anyway because he had been fighting for the South with his master, and because he was a good shot. He never missed. So
so he's a black guy then?
Yeah.
Or African American?
Yeah. So a lot of them didn't like him because he'd been fighting for the South, and now here he is picking up people to bring them, like they've been charged with murder, to bring them back to get hung, basically. But they're getting a trial first, right? They might be innocent, whatever. But he's picking people up, and they're looking at it as, you're picking up African American people working for the master still, kind of thing. Like, who are you working for, kind of thing. So a lot of people aren't liking him. But he believes in the law. He wants to follow the law. And he knows, he really likes the Bible. He knows, he was never taught to read or write, but he knows the Bible off by heart. And so he's, you know, you look at him and you think, okay, well, he seems like a good guy. He's the hero in this story. And then, he's picking up these people, and he's told, okay, you're supposed to transfer the person that you've picked up, who's charged with murder, and he totally did it. He admitted he did, and he said why and whatever. And a lot of the people, they say, oh yeah, I did it, and this is why, and whatever, you know. And so, but anyway, he picks up this person. He's supposed to transfer him to this other guy, and he knows this other guy from the past, and this guy was a bad guy, and he didn't care for him. And the guy had killed somebody that was near and dear to him, and he didn't like him even before that point, you could tell. But so he's transferring this guy to him. He's now, this guy's found himself in a position of power, and unlike Bass Reeves, he's using this to his advantage. He says, okay, well, these guys are getting transferred, and if we bring them in dead, so they don't actually bring them in dead, they bring in their boots to show, yeah, you know, whatever, he ran, I had to kill him, here's his boots, and then you get half of the money for bringing him in, because, well, he's dead anyway, whatever, you can't hang him, he's already gone. Well, this other guy, he's figured out, okay, well, if the boots get in, you get half the money, and this man's worth more than the $50 that he'd get for hanging, right, or whatever. And so he's figured out this flaw in the system, and he's using it to his advantage. And Bass Reeves has heard about this guy, and has heard about African American people just disappearing. Where did they go? You know, and so he's he's figured it out. Well, somebody told him, right? So he didn't figure it out on his own. He had his suspicions about this guy, and then they were confirmed, and he never liked this guy anyway. So he's going over. He's going to get his $50 because the guy said he said that Bass Reeves had just given him the boots. He didn't get the man, and Bass Reeves is like, oh, I delivered the man, and so he wants his $50 because he was ripped off by this guy. And well, things get really interesting. So it's a spoiler alert. I should have told you that before, but he ends up going there, and the guy is using these murderers as slaves. So even though it's not legal anymore, it's a whole different, he's the law where he is. And he's decided this is his law. These people, they're alive as slaves, and they'd be hanging otherwise. So he doesn't really even feel guilty about it, but he doesn't feel guilty about anything because he's not a nice person. And so anyway, things end up happening, and all of this man's wealth ends up being redistributed. Care of Bass Reeves. And but how it happens, I don't like. So I like the story, I like everything, and I'm like, okay, well, they had to make the story. The money, he can't have it, because really it was off the backs of these guys that this money was made, and whatever slaves this guy had in the past, right? So I understand the makers of the show, they're like, we can't have him keep the money. But what do you do? What do you do with it? Well, they did the wrong thing. What he ended up doing is, rather than taking these guys who were murderers, probably, they've been accused of murder, they're supposed to be transported back, rather than taking them back to have their trial, he gets one of the murderers. He says, okay, here's all the money. I hear that it's safe in Kansas. Go to Kansas, take them to Kansas, and you'll settle down with this money and you'll be all right, kind of thing. And they're off they go with the money. And it's like, okay, what about the people in Kansas? These guys are murderers. You're sending murderers to live in Kansas with a whole bunch of money, and are they trustworthy? Is it going to be one guy get back with the money? Or what's going to happen? But anyway, the worst case scenario is, they all live in Kansas next to some innocent people, and they're a bunch of murderers. Really, honestly, I don't know. Were you not thinking when you wrote this idea? And then he's portrayed as, oh yeah, you're a hero because you freed these slaves. Murderers sent them to live with innocent people. So, honestly, I think they really screwed up the ending there of that season. But still, having said that, I look forward to the next one because it was entertaining. Beyond Paradise Season 1. The acting isn't great. We've seen it before, but not this season of it. Not this. They've changed things. So it says Beyond Paradise follows D.I. Humphrey Goodman and his fiancée Martha as they leave London to navigate a new life together on the beautiful Devon coast. And it is beautiful. It's lovely to see. And the mysteries are good. So it's a police drama. That's what I call these sort of mysteries. I don't really believe they're mysteries. But this one, the mysteries are told well enough that you could sit down and try to figure them out if you cared to, I'm sure. I was doing other things, whatever. But I still enjoyed this. And they had some good shanty music in the background sometimes, so I liked hearing that too. So
I thought it was shanties applied to Newfies, but they don't. I think you're right. They kind of see things. Yeah, I think I've seen this before. They've kind of got retro styles. You almost looked at it upside down. They look like a rock group from 1965.
We've seen him before, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
anyway. They've kind of got the hairstyles and the pants styles, like the pants are really tight around the ankles.
I see.
That looks like the Birds 1965.
Okay.
Very impressive, but anyway.
But yeah, I like the mystery. So I had a hard time picking which one would be on the top, but I decided no, this one, because they're just individual shows, and the wrap up. And this one, it's all, it goes from one episode to the next. It's all connected, and I like that. I think they did a good job with it. So
you might as well do it, and people do it now increasingly nowadays because no one wants to watch movies. To see anything serious, they're so expensive. I hate to think what they cost.
Yeah.
It's mainly just aimed for kids and teenagers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So anyway, you go ahead and talk about your books.
Okay. So you want to lead before?
No, I can sit here. You talk about your books.
So I think I'm going to have to pull the plug just temporarily on my.
Sure.
New month's resolution. I've got a lot of books on my plate, right? Like Michelangelo's, that's collected.
Yeah, I know.
It's not a huge book, and it's got the original. That's what's going to pose the problem, as well as translations. Translations aren't going to be too much of a problem, but I'm not really that good at Italian. So I'll be more studying than reading the originals.
Try to understand it.
Exactly right. So I'll be going back and forth from the, and when you get translations.
Whereas I didn't. I just looked at it at the rhyme scheme and stuff. That's all. That's all I could really look at.
And Petrarch, I think you've got a fairly substantial volume. I wouldn't say it's necessarily his collected stuff. But again, it's got the original, and I'll be studying that more than reading it.
It doesn't have the original.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, I'll go through that fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And then I've got 3 books, they're quite small, for the accompanying 3 great courses that I've got to whip through. I've gone through about half of them, half of each one of them. And then I've got 3 books, one book of reviews by a poet, and then a book of poetry by him, and a book of poetry by another person. I think those 2 poets are Canadians, recommended by a person I'd characterize as friendly, if not a friend. In other words, I don't know him well enough to call him a friend, but I wouldn't mind having him as a friend, unlike so many people. He's actually a very good poet. Top 3, I'd say, poets in Lethbridge, and maybe top 10 poets in Canada. Anyway, so I probably won't be able to get through this by the end of June. I've gone through a substantial part, so this is the Holy Scriptures in the New World Translation. So it's I believe Jehovah's Witness translation into French. I've got their translation in English, which would be their original one. And this is another reason why I won't be able to fulfill that obligation, because I basically done this is like a life resolution or something like that. I started this a long time ago. Actually, I've almost finished it for the first time. I've got 3.5 pages left to go. I was madly trying to get through it before Pauline started her review. But this is called the Srimad Bhagavatam, probably. And it's, I gather, one of the Puranas. This is only, I gather there are something like 10 cantos. And this is only part 1 of the first canto. It's easily available, or used to be secondhand, because what proselytizes for this religion, Hinduism, for this particular form of Hinduism, too, is Vaishnavism, where you worship Vishnu and his various incarnations, including, most importantly for them, Krishna, or Krishna, however you want to mispronounce his name. And so I about halfway through the Bhagavad Gita, which is, again, the version as translated by this fellow. This is George Harris's guru. So here's how it's given on the bottom. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and founder Acharya of, I think Acharya means something like teacher, of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I think it's something like ISKCON, when put into something like a abbreviated form. And so, as I said, this was George Harrison, kind of like personal guru. I'll let you have a look at his face. Yeah. Now, George Harrison, everyone's seen his face if they're over a certain age. A lot of people nowadays would say, "Who?" And that's okay. That's probably good, right? I don't know. George Harrison's really should be that memorable. He wasn't a major creative force in the Beatles by any means. He was a very good guitarist eventually. Wasn't very good when we were starting out. Some wonderful pictures in here. Have you ever seen the pictures in these collection of books? They're better than the ones in the Book of Mormon, and you rarely see good pictures in translations of the Bible. But yeah, it's quite a few pictures in here. I think there tend to be more in the jam there. The wasps all over the. Wasps all over the. Yeah, nice picture of Sutta Goswami. Spoke the Srimad about 1,000-year sacrifice. 6,000 years. But show you some of the pictures there. I will show you. Here's the cover. Here's the title of this guy who did the translations, and there's most of the stuff in here is actually his. Not so much translations, but purports, which is his explanation of various passages. So I will show you that it has the original Sanskrit here, right there. Hopefully you can see that Sanskrit, various texts, and this is a wonderful sort of thing because it'll give a transliteration of the particular passage, and then a word-by-word analysis of the original. So you get the transliteration. Plam. He says your goodness, but it's just your. So it's Indo-European language, Sanskrit, and so that would be related to French. Tu, T-U. See? TV. So that means your. Okay. Most of these other things aren't as obvious, but here's another one. Tri Lokim. Lokim means world. Tri means three. Does that remind you of Italian? T-R-I? Three. Yeah. Or I think it's tre, actually, in Italian. I think it's Latin, tree. And we've got a few other things that we might be able to see. May, that's mine. M-E means mine. Cognate language, right? Cognate words. And stuff like that. So then you get the word-by-word analysis. Then you get a smooth translation, well, relatively smooth, and then you get a purport. This is a very short purport for his, so he's giving his analysis of it. Here's a more, these are more representative purports for the various texts. Usually it's 4 lines. It actually might only be 2 lines cut into, cut it in half, stuff like that. But, yeah, heading out.
Yep, so you can have some high-protein waffle if you want, and let people know which one you like more, the protein one or the
so
cookie.
Mine is the high protein, and yours is the birthday cake.
Mine is the high protein, yours is cookie.
Okay, and yours is the birthday cake, right?
Yeah.
I remembered that. That sounds much more attractive than high protein, so that's why I remembered it. So I'll show you a few of the pictures in here. They're wonderful. They remind me of some of the stuff you'll see in kids' Bibles and whatever, but what the hey, there's Krishna, however you want to pronounce it. He's blue skin. And this, I suspect, is Arjuna. Krishna was Arjuna's charioteer in the Battle of Kurukshetra, I should say. Kurukshetra. I probably got the accent in the wrong place there. For you folks who know Sanskrit, I apologize. Just in the learning stages. I've got 2 books of. So this is supposed to be the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I'm not sure if it's exactly where they located, but it's probably within 10 or 20 miles of where they located in modern day times. Fascinating pictures here, stuff like that. I don't want to show too much for fear the society thinks I'm infringing copyright. It's more like an advertisement for this stuff. It comes highly recommended. Not the religion, mind you, especially as interpreted by this Bhaktivedanta. I don't know what you're supposed to call him. Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta. I don't know which is AC. Probably Bhaktivedanta. But Swami would just be a title. Anyway, I'm going to give you a, this will be. I promised, or maybe threatened, to give you thoughts for the day. I haven't given one for every day, but here are a couple of thoughts for the day. No, I understand. I'm short 3.5 pages, but that's just, that's just in the index. I read indexes as a form of review, so I've actually gone through the body of this. And I've gone through the body of it almost twice. So you'll get a second review once I finish up. The fact is, I've just got about 10, well, it's less than 10 pages, so to actually finish up the translation part twice. I'm on page 391, and the translation part goes up to what, 390? No, I finished page 398, so 397. I got something like 7 pages left to go into translation. Second time. How much time left?
Couple minutes.
Couple of minutes. Okay, so I'll wrap it up, and I will give a thought for the day. Page 385. So we're told that this is a wonderful religion, and we should let everyone in who wants to come to Canada. Well, that's good. Okay. Women as a class are no better than boys, and therefore have no discriminatory power like that of a man. Did you catch that? Women as a class are no better than boys. This is a very conservative religion, and we don't want people who believe in this here getting a majority and voting. Will they allow women to have the vote? We don't allow boys to have a vote. Fascinating. You should be finding it fascinating. Page 388. You've heard of sati? Okay. A devoted wife who is, according to revealed scripture, the better half of her husband, is justified in embracing voluntary death along with her husband if she is without issue. If she doesn't have kids, it's justified according to this guy. This guy died recently in Pauline's lifetime. Sati is justified. This is one of the things Britain actually brought a little touch of civilization to India because they made it illegal. Did you catch that? What they're saying about women? Absorb. Think. Don't just absorb.
Taste your waffles.
Okay. Cookie. I'm like the Cookie Monster. Awesome. You want me to taste this one too?
Yeah.
Cake. I like both. I can't make a judgment. I will come with